Welcome to Conversations for Our Time. This is podcast number 33, and this is part 7 of the mini series on the grand solar minimum. So, today, what we're actually going to be talking about is kind of leading on from last week's episode. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about ice ages, about magnetic reversals and excursions, as well as the event, the Younger Dryas event, which was it's a well-known event in geology, which stretches back to around, between 12,900 and 11,700 years before present. And it was essentially a cooling event which marked the return of glacial conditions. So it's a really interesting time in Earth's history. And what it really did was marked the start of another cycle. So I hope all of you kind of out there are gauging from what we're talking about is everything is a cycle. And we have plenty of evidence, both evidence that we can see in ice cores and tree ring data, as well as things like cave paintings. And all of this is really important to kind of take into consideration when we're looking about the potential of what can happen in our future. It's really important to look into the past. And these events are we can't exactly accurately predict them because there are so many factors that kind of influence when we go into glacial periods and when we're in interglacial periods. But what we can determine from this is a degree of understanding to how the sun and other cosmic factors are actually influencing the swings in temperature, how the ice caps expand and detract, as well as how this actually affects civilization. And one other thing that we are going to be going into is actually how evolution works. We've touched on this before. The theory of adaptation put forward by Darwin, as well as others, has some weight behind it. But actual evolution of how species come about is something that can't really be proved by Darwin's theory. It's something that there isn't that much evidence to prove, i.e. the missing link that we've been looking for. And this is similar to the theory of the Big Bang, is that there's actually a lot of evidence that disproves the theory of the Big Bang. So I hope you're all going to enjoy this one. It is really important for me to understand this a little bit more. George has been doing a lot of research. So without further ado, we will start the podcast. So welcome, George. I hope you got some good information for us. So why don't you take it from where you want?
Thanks, John. Yeah, great introduction. Thanks, everyone. Welcome to the next one. Yeah, absolutely. It's always been the way, isn't it? We always have to look at the past. We have to look at the cycles, and everything is astrological. And the ancients knew it, and we are here to learn. We're not claiming to be experts, and any information or any, my subject is close to my heart, is fasting. I'm no expert, but I'm gathering this information. We are all gathering information, knowledge, books, experiences, and we are learning like our ancestors were. And we're putting it all together just for you to look into yourselves and decide, because we are being blamed for quite a lot of things, and it isn't for us to take the blame. So we're going to go deeper into what we were talking about last week, just to get people into more of a background of the magnetic reversals and excursions, and how the natural phenomenon of erratic weather that has taken place in the past, yeah, with the likes that we've never seen today. We haven't seen how brutal nature can be, right? And even if it is, as I say, as we've touched upon, HARP, geoengineering, it's not something we want to continue to remind people, but we have to understand that what we've seen in modern times is nothing compared to what nature has done in the past. So we're going to learn, we're going to keep learning, we're going to keep sharing. And yeah, if you want to comment or send me a message, you're more than welcome to. So I know John touched upon one of the magnetic reversals. I think it was the Lachamp last week. So we'll do it in order. So there's been the Gothenburg magnetic reversal, and the most recent one about 12,350 years ago, and there was a period of short-term ice and snow. You're going to see a pattern emerging as I keep talking about the last few reversals. Okay, so then we had the Mono Lake magnetic excursion, which was about 23,000 years ago. We can go this far back. This is very well documented. Again, coincided with glaciation, and then the Lake Mungo magnetic excursion about 33,500 years ago. Yeah, it's amazing we can go back with this documented evidence. Rapid cooling immediately followed a period of warmth. Yeah, but that rapid cooling, we're not talking about a cold winter's day in December. Yeah, we're talking about catastrophic weather here. Yeah, and we've got the Lachamp, which is the magnetic reversal that happened 43,000 years ago. We're talking 43,000 years ago, evidence of the most shocking erratic weather that no one has seen today. When it flipped, the return to normal polarity corresponded with an end of an ice age. Yeah, so all of these magnetic reversals and excursions show a major decrease in intensity of the magnetic field. This is a common pattern. You've got excursions that have been taking place roughly 11,500 years, right? For millions of years, right? Big time catastrophic cooling and rapid ice buildup is always accompanied by many of those excursions and reversals. Now take your minds back to these times, because this isn't like the transitions of seasons that we get from winter to spring to summer and then autumn. You're talking about these transitions are heavy. Yeah, we're talking about the most severe weather and the most severe cooling events that there is. So with all of this of what we've talked about ever since doing these podcasts, and especially going deeper into the ground solar minimums, big time catastrophic events is what we're talking about, right? We've got polarity reversals, we've got ice ages, we've got extinctions, we've got new species. Yeah, all connected with massive amounts of radioactivity, right? Huge explosions, wildfires, yeah? These wildfires can be a natural occurrence, natural event, yeah? But it's not just a destruction. When we look into it, I really highly recommend trying to get Robert Felix's books. One of them is not easy to get. His website got taken down. I'm not sure if I mentioned that last time. He's passed away and his website got shut down. Yeah, because these books had a lot of information in it. Lucky one member of the Quiet Sun team has got his books, so we got them. For life. You can get not by fire, not by ice, not by fire, but by ice, which is yeah, which is easy obtainable. But the other book, Evolutionary Leaps, is not. But it's not just a destruction. There is a creation involved here as well. But only God knows why this happens. Yeah, it is just a cycle. But I think it's a natural reset. Yeah, but I think there is. Because if we get if we get things wrong, if we're not learning from our mistakes from the past, nature is going to be very, very harsh with us. And I still will say in this so-called truth and freedom movement, people in it are not getting things right. Yeah, they're continuously breaking natural law. Well, there's going to be karmic consequences, individually and collectively, making it a lot more difficult than it has to be. We have to be with the principle of rhythm. Yeah, so much it's needed now more than ever. Yeah, but there is a creation here, and whatever you want to call it, God, the infinite power, the supreme one, yeah, is making this happen as a natural event, and we're only just finding out about these things, in modern times. It's truly magnificent, truly scary, yeah, truly heavy information. But I think it's important for us to know. I think you'll agree, John.
Yeah, George, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think I have had this theory for a while about these resets by our sun or by the you know the galactic center. In the theory of the electric universe or plasma cosmology, they talk about the suns are actually like transformers essentially, and they're connected to a galactic wave, shall we say. And that galactic wave is operating on a particular frequency. So many plasma cosmologists and people that look into and research and support theories like GSM and magnetic excursions, etc., will talk about how the sun is in on this cyclical reset, shall we say. And, a species will get to a certain point, or civilization will get to a certain point, and then all of a sudden the reset happens. So whether that's through an ice age or whether that's through some other cosmological event, what I really find fascinating is that, and I think I've spoken to you about this before, George, is that we have the power as a species to actually have an influence on the sun. So it's not just the sun having an influence on us, because everything is a frequency and a vibration. So, like in the Yuga cycle, we have these golden ages and we have like the dark ages. And I believe this correlates or corresponds or is in this kind of synchronistic cycle of where humanity is at that point. So when our frequency and our vibration is low, then natural resets will start to happen. you know. But if, as a species, we can raise our vibration, we can actually have an influence over what is happening. And I think that's why, although there is some degree of accuracy in the periodic reset that the sun creates, I was on a webinar yesterday with a really interesting guy who's into biodynamic farming. And he was talking about, funny enough, he was talking about how he has a heart condition and he knows that when there's a CME on the sun, it actually affects his heart. So he has to be really careful. But he also said, which kind of supported my idea, I know other people probably had this idea as well, is that actually we have this incredible influence over the sun. So if as a species we can raise our vibration, we can actually influence what's actually happening. And, you know, I'm a very big proponent of that geoengineering is not definitely the biggest cause of the climate. It's the sun. But I also think as a species, our spiritual development also has an influence over the sun. And I think you can probably go back into ancient times to see that they also believed this. So I find it really interesting, the whole thing, and really it's about, you know, what do we choose our destiny to be? If we allow others to control our destiny, then we're always going to be at the mercy of what other people say or what they want us to do. But if we actually raise our frequency, you know, it's like this manifestation thing, isn't it, George? Like, if we wake up in the morning and we choose to tread a path of high frequency and that of love, then actually our environment will reflect that. And so many people have said this in the past, you know, Plato to name one. I was looking at a lot of his quotes earlier on. So I think it's a really interesting point to put out there is that we're not at the mercy of the people that think they're controlling the narrative, but also we do have an influence over these cosmic events because nothing in nature is like one-sided. Everything has this, you know, this give and receive. So I thought I'd bring that up because it's something I've been contemplating quite a lot recently.
Yeah, John, I think it's very, very interesting what you're saying. I've been thinking of the similar lines really for a very long time since doing these deep inner work of spirituality. I think the issue is, as we have a society that generally is not spiritual, you know, it's increasing and it has been increasing over time. Um, I think that we have a society that unfortunately, now I don't mean to say this in an egotistical way, but it is the truth. They're so far from removed from who they are and spirituality that they're living in the lower egoic brain, the cerebellum, the lower brain. And bellum, as I'm sure I've mentioned on the show, is means war. So, where do you want to live in your brain? Okay, the ancients knew that all the that the sun, astrologically, all the stars, yeah, all the constellations were within you. The sun and the moon is in your brain. They knew it was all inside. Yeah. So the more you take that information on, the more you apply it into your life, the more you balance your whole, your triune God aspect within you. You're talking about your thoughts, your feelings, your actions have to be in line with each other. You have to be in harmony with yourself. It's a very major thing when you have an individual that does something but knows that he or she shouldn't be doing, or vice versa. It means that you're not in harmony with yourself. So you're not in balance with the earth, the universe and everything, and you're going to get that reflected back on you. But we have a whole society doing that, yeah. So maybe that's one of the reasons why that we have cycles, because we're going to have to keep going and repeat these lessons, and until we learn to look at history, until we learn to look at this ancient knowledge of thyself, because the wonders are in you to learn. Yeah, once you are balanced, it's my personal belief that everything goes back to one. You know, I could go deeper than that, but I don't. I didn't think it's a great idea because it's my own personal thing, and I can't really prove it. So whilst we have a society that is completely out of balance, not in harmony with themselves, which means it will cause, under natural law, more chaos and disharmony in the outside world. We got to suffer the karmic consequences of that. Yeah, so nature has to give a natural reset. It makes perfect sense when you sit down and you contemplate this until we raise the consciousness within ourselves to get into that cross consciousness and start living in the cerebrum. Yeah, the cerebrum, which is the higher part of your brain, is part of the neocortex, where we can access different dimensions and from that part of the brain and really start living in harmony with ourselves and in life. But unfortunately, that's not quite the case, but it is increasing, I believe, slowly over time. But with these events and that everything is happening, this is our chance to really learn, because there's always been survivors, yeah, animals and people, those who knew. I still think animals know about these things instinctively, yeah, but that knowledge is still being passed on, and I don't we don't get caught up as well with the shape of the earth. There's a massive divide within that with regards to that, and it's been happening for years and years, and I feel the time is now for both parties need to sit down, put their differences aside, and just accept that something significant happens every roughly 11,500 years that affects the sun, affects the earth, it affects everybody living on it, and we need to accept that we've learned enough now, and regardless of what shape the earth is, don't care. Flat, globe, concave, hollow, don't care. Yeah? This is one of the reasons why I don't go on Facebook no more, because I see it every day, and I rather do podcasts, yeah, and do something about actually what's happening, because you get people dictating what you post, you get people dictating, what kind of podcasts you do, whilst they sit around and do nothing because they haven't got that care aspect within them, because they didn't balance themselves out, or whatever you want to believe, that the sun shuts down, the sun has a relationship with the earth. It is affected, and something happens to the magnetosphere. Something happens to the poles. Ice ages happen. Yeah, extinctions happen, and that cycles happen. And there are short cycles, and there are long cycles, and there's cycles within cycles. They all exist regardless of what shape the earth is. And those are the facts. Those are the facts. What can you do? I like to say to both parties, what can you do with the shape of the earth? You can't eat it. You need to learn self-sufficiency and stop arguing about this kind of stuff. Because if the food does run out catastrophically, you're going to wish that you're going to learn how to survive. We try to bring every aspect into these podcasts, mind, body, and spirit, fasting, growing food. We're giving the best permaculture advice and techniques and teachings that we have, because we need to come together now, because our time is coming where something significant is going to happen, more than likely in our lifetime, but we can only get through it together, right? There's no other way. We have to find out this information. Yeah, we'll find out all this useless stuff when we leave our bodies, so let's try and learn this stuff. But that's the basics here, and there's so much more to know and finer details in everything that we're talking about. every subject that we're talking about. But it's up to us. We can guide people onto the path and they can go and look into things, even further. But it's up to people now to look into it further. There's quite a lot of people now talking about the grand solar minimum in America. There have been quite a few, um, but there's not enough, in my opinion, there's not enough people doing this in England, and I feel like bloody hell, somebody better do it, and this is what we're here to do. We're here to provide this information because we've researched very much into this kind of stuff. And, it is great if we can sort of have some sort of snowball effect and other people want to do podcasts on their own, and hopefully we can have an influence on that and people and encourage people to do that. But I haven't learned everything that there is to learn about this whole subject. There's no way I've grasped the full understanding because it's a never-ending subject in terms of information. And, nobody understands this realm fully, yeah? And the reality that we live in 100%. Nobody, because our reality is manipulated, but only because we have a society that have that are breaking natural law, and that manipulation is our karmic consequences. Yeah, and it's very deep stuff, this, but I'm just preparing for the future. John is preparing for the future, and we're trying to get others to put down these differences and prepare and come together. And sure, there is objective truth, but this really isn't a time to argue about these things. I mean, we will fully admit that the Quiet Sun team are not always 100% on the same page on all topics. We research different things and have different beliefs, and that's okay. But we are on the same page enough to want to do something important together that will help humanity. And I'm sure you'll agree with that, John.
Yeah, George, and great, man. Thank you very much for saying that. Look, it's our karma that we met. It's our karma that we're doing these podcasts together. We want to evolve as human beings and as spiritual beings. And if we agreed on everything, geez, man, it would be boring.
I know, it's about exactly what I was about to say.
Man. And we are, we're building something very valuable together. And, since I've been practicing Buddhism, I started 15 years ago, one of the main tenets of Buddhism is about creating value. And it doesn't matter what you've got. It doesn't matter how much money you've got. You know, I remember years ago that I never wanted to change. I was so stubborn in, and even now I still hold on to that, but I'm slowly letting go, surrendering to what I think I know, because really I don't know anything. I'm like a little child that's discovering the planet for the first time. And, I think that's a beautiful thing because I'm more I'm I'm more courageous to admit I don't know than I was 10 years ago. And for me, that's a great evolution. And the other thing, I wanted to kind of mention about this kind of spiritual growth that people are going through. Everyone is walking a different path, and as a species together, not everyone has to develop spiritually at the same time. It's a quantitative. It's not quantitative. It's qualitative. So only really a small percentage of people need to evolve spiritually. These people, it's their karma to evolve. And actually, I'm not putting myself in any box, but I believe that, I was here to be one of those people that takes risks, that walks a new path, and other people, I'm happy to support other people. I'm happy to be there for all those people in my life that don't see eye to eye with me on many things, but I'm always going to be there to support them because as a practicing Buddhist, I'm a bodhisattva. I've been here to alleviate. I'm here to alleviate suffering and impart joy, but I also need to take care of myself. So, as well as doing all the stuff that we do, I very much focus on how I can grow with my food, how I can accept that others aren't always going to agree with me, how I can let go and forgive myself and forgive other people. And that's really the important thing because no matter what happens, my belief is that I'm going to come back. And I'm sure, George, we've had many lifetimes together in different kind of dynamics.
I think so. Yes. I mean, definitely we've, we're old souls and we've been here before and we continue to learn and we continue to mess up and, make mistakes and we are living through our karma every single day. Yeah. And these are our lessons. And this is, without sounding preachy, we take it as lessons, and instead of fighting with the life, no, let's work with life. These things are all here and all happening for a reason, and they are less like cycles, lessons within lessons. There are small lessons, there are big lessons, lessons within one big massive lesson, and we've just got to observe. We've got to take into consideration, the principles of permaculture and observe things. How is life working? Why is that plant not doing very well? Now, why is this happening? Analyze. Yeah, these are all lessons. So we were going to go into the Younger Dryas event, but slightly run out of time. We're going to go into that in the next week, and that kind of wraps up about the magnetic reversals and excursions. We can go into a little bit more deeper in the coming podcasts about ice ages. It's all interconnected anyway, and we'll go deeper into this stuff. And we'll also go into the book of Anita Bailey's because it's a very, very good self-sufficiency book to help us prepare. It's all about preparation. I'm sure you'd agree, John.
Yeah, for sure, George. Definitely. I actually just wanted to mention one thing. So, in the role of karma, evolution is karma, right? And Robert Felix, I'm sure he wasn't the first one to put forward this theory. And I thought I'd just drop that in there because I think it's a good thing to finish on is although Darwin's theory of adaptation and speciation has some weight behind it, this theory of evolutionary leaps really fascinates me. And actually, it's when these magnetic excursions and magnetic reversals that are taking place that more cosmic rays are able to enter into the atmosphere. And cosmic rays have been proven to change the DNA. So, this is a very strong theory in regards to how species all of a sudden just boom, within a couple of thousand years, a species will die and another one will take its place. And, this is something you can research on the internet. You just put in evolutionary leaps and it will come up with a bunch of stuff. But, you know, essentially the genetic makeup of species changes. So species can grow new limbs. And, if you look at things like the platypus, for instance, I mean, it's a crazy looking animal, right? How's an animal like that just evolved? It makes no real sense. But as the climate changes very rapidly, it does make sense that a species would suddenly develop a new body part to adapt to that change, or a new trait to adapt to a changing environment, or, a hunter might develop really big teeth like a saber-toothed tiger, for instance, that would need those type of teeth to take down a mammoth. So yeah, I thought I'd just kind of add that right at the end because it's a really fascinating thing for me. Um, but great podcast, George. Really fascinating, man. And I love sharing this stuff with people, and I love the fact that each episode we do, we're kind of strengthening this dynamic between us. So I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, me too, John. We definitely, have learned a lot together.
Mm.
Where 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, we weren't doing very well.
No,
We
we
weren't,
weren't.
and we've certainly been on the healing path because there's no other way to go. You either
There
give up
isn't.
on life, or you go on a healing path and you start learning what the universe wants us to learn, and start learning what nature wants us to learn, and we grew massively together, absolutely individually and together, and we just want to share what we are learning because we're coming from a similar point of view, but we learn different things.
Exactly, man. And to reiterate, so people are really aware, we are not experts in this field. We have our own field of speciality, but it's really important to remember. So um, just go and do your research, people. It's easy to find. Just listen to what we say and then go and search it out if you're interested. Thank you.
Pond 5.